The rain had always been his hiding place, its endless rhythm drowning out the silence in his heart. Kenji never expected a single umbrella to change everything. But when Haru appeared, with a smile that cut through the storm, Kenji's quiet world began to unravel. From stolen sketches to whispered confessions, this is a story of love, courage, and the moment the rain finally stopped. Stay tuned until the end, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more heartwarming BL stories. The rain always fell heavier on days when Kenji forgot his umbrella. He stood at the school gates, bag hugged tightly against his chest, watching students rush past with bright colors sheltering them, reds, yellows, blues, the soft translucent plastic of cheap store umbrellas. The pavement shimmered with puddles, and the downpour sounded like 1,000 restless drums. Kenji sighed. He hated attention, and standing there alone without an umbrella was the same as raising a sign above his head. Look at the careless boy who forgot again. He considered waiting it out, but the clouds were heavy and dark. This storm wasn't ending anytime soon. Hey, a voice called behind him, warm, cheerful, and annoyingly familiar. Kenji turned. Haru stood there, one hand in his pocket, the other gripping a wide navy umbrella. His hair was damp at the tips, framing his easy grin. Haru wasn't just another classmate, he was the kind of boy everyone noticed, the kind of boy Kenji tried to avoid. Loud, popular, effortlessly charming. You forgot yours, huh? Haru tilted his head, already stepping closer. Again. Kenji's ears burned. It's fine. I'll just wait. In the rain? You'll catch a cold. Haru popped the umbrella open wider, the fabric stretching like wings. Come on. I'll walk you. Kenji froze. The thought of walking home beside Haru made his stomach twist, though he couldn't tell if it was dread or something else entirely. You don't have to. I know. Haru's grin softened into something less teasing, more genuine. But I want to. Before Kenji could protest again, Haru stepped closer, holding the umbrella above both their heads. The space was suddenly small, the sound of rain muffled against the fabric. Kenji could smell the faint scent of soap and something citrus, fresh and clean. They began to walk, shoulders almost brushing. The world outside was chaos, rain splattering against the ground, cars hissing through wet streets, but inside their little circle of dryness, it felt strangely quiet. Kenji kept his gaze down, watching raindrops roll off the edge of the umbrella. Haru hummed softly, some tune Kenji didn't recognize. Do you always hum when it rains? Kenji asked before realizing he'd spoken aloud. Haru chuckled. You noticed? Yeah. My mom used to do it. Said it kept the rain from feeling lonely. Kenji risked a glance up. Haru's smile wasn't his usual bright grin. It was softer, gentler, like the warmth of a candle instead of the blaze of the sun. For a moment, Kenji felt like sketching him right then and there, capturing that look before it slipped away. They reached the corner where Kenji usually turned off. He slowed his steps, hesitant. This is my street. You don't have to. I'll walk you to your door, Haru interrupted lightly, adjusting his grip on the umbrella. It's raining too hard to let you go alone. Kenji opened his mouth to argue but found no words. His throat felt tight, his chest heavier than the rain-cloud sky above them. When they reached his small apartment building, Kenji lingered under the umbrella, not wanting to step away just yet. He realized with a start that he didn't want the moment to end. Thanks, he said finally, voice low. Haru tilted his head again, smiling. Anytime. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Raindrops splattered just beyond the umbrella's edge, the storm still raging, but between them there was a pause, a quiet, almost comfortable. Kenji forced himself to step back. The rain immediately soaked his shoulders as he darted under the awning. He turned, half expecting Haru to already be walking away. But Haru lingered, still watching him with that same soft smile. See you tomorrow, Kenji. Kenji's heart stuttered. Haru never said his name before. Not once. The rain didn't seem so heavy anymore. Kenji couldn't stop thinking about it. The walk home. The umbrella. The way Haru had said his name as if it belonged on his lips. That night, long after the rain had quieted and the streets had dried, Kenji sat at his small desk by the window. His sketchbook lay open, the pages soft from use. He told himself he was just practicing, just drawing faces like he always did. But his pencil moved on its own, tracing the curve of a smile, the tilt of a head, the messy strands of hair dampened by rain. Haru's face appeared on the paper, alive in graphite. Kenji paused, staring at the drawing. His chest tightened. This wasn't just practice. It was a confession he didn't dare voice aloud. With a frustrated sigh, he shut the sketchbook, burying it under other notebooks. He couldn't let anyone see it, especially Haru. The next day, Kenji arrived at school early, slipping into his usual back row seat. The classroom buzzed with chatter, but Kenji kept his head down, pretending to review notes. Of course, Haru was the one who broke through his quiet world. "Morning, Kenji." Haru's voice was bright as he slid into the seat beside him. He wasn't even supposed to sit there, his desk was across the room. But Haru never seemed to care about rules like that. Kenji blinked at him. "Why, are you sitting here?" Haru shrugged. "Better view." Kenji didn't know if he meant of the board or of him. His ears burned at the thought. They spent most of the period in silence, though Kenji could feel Haru's presence beside him like a flame he couldn't ignore. When the teacher dismissed them, Kenji quickly stuffed his things into his bag. But in his haste, his sketchbook slipped out and landed on the floor with a soft thud. Before he could grab it, Haru bent down and picked it up. "Hey, you draw?" Haru's tone was curious, not mocking. He flipped it open before Kenji could protest. Kenji's heart pounded. His breath caught. "Wait, don't." But it was too late. Haru's eyes widened slightly as he stared at the pencil lines on the page. Kenji's world stopped. The sketch wasn't of landscapes or random figures, it was him. Haru's own face, captured in delicate strokes. The gentle smile he wore under the umbrella, the rain caught in his hair, the softness Kenji had seen that night. Kenji's throat went dry. Words tangled and died before reaching his lips. This was it. Haru would laugh or tease or worse tell everyone. But Haru didn't. Instead he looked at the drawing for a long moment, then at Kenji. His usual playful grin was gone, replaced by something unreadable. "This is," Haru's voice was quiet, softer than Kenji had ever heard it. "Really good." Kenji blinked. "What?" "You're talented," Haru said simply, closing the sketchbook gently and handing it back. "I didn't know you could draw like this." Kenji's fingers trembled as he took it, clutching it to his chest. "It's nothing. Just practice." Haru tilted his head, smiling again, but it wasn't his usual wide grin. It was gentler, more thoughtful. "If that's practice, I can't imagine your real work." Kenji turned away quickly, hiding his face. His cheeks burned. Why wasn't Haru teasing him? Why wasn't he making a joke of it? The rest of the day passed in a blur. Kenji couldn't concentrate on lessons, couldn't focus on anything except the memory of Haru's voice when he said "really good." After school, as Kenji slipped his sketchbook carefully into his bag, Haru appeared again, leaning against the doorway. "Walk home together?" he asked as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Kenji hesitated. His instinct was to say no, to avoid the risk of feeling his heart stumble again. But then he remembered the umbrella, the sketch, the way Haru hadn't laughed. "Okay," he said quietly. And just like that, they were walking side by side again, the sky clear this time, no rain to shield them. Kenji realized something unsettling. It was easier to hide under the rain. Without it, there was nothing to protect him from how much Haru's presence made him feel. Days began to fall into a rhythm. Kenji found himself walking home with Haru more often than not, sometimes under the shelter of an umbrella, sometimes beneath the golden wash of a late afternoon sky. At first he thought it was coincidence, but soon it became clear. Haru was waiting for him. The thought made Kenji's chest feel tight, though he couldn't tell if it was comfort or danger. Haru was different when it was just the two of them. At school he laughed loud, surrounded by friends, his voice always carrying above the noise. But on the quiet walks home, his voice softened, his jokes slower, his smile less polished. Kenji liked this version of Haru more than he should have. One afternoon they stopped at a small convenience store to grab drinks. Kenji chose plain bottled water, but Haru grabbed 2 cans of soda and handed one to him. "I don't like soda," Kenji muttered, pushing it back. "Try it," Haru insisted. "It tastes better when someone else buys it for you." Kenji stared at him for a moment, then gave in, cracking the can open. The sweetness fizzed across his tongue and he almost smiled. "Almost." "There it is," Haru teased, pointing. "You do smile." Kenji's ears burned and he turned away quickly. "Shut up." Haru laughed, but it wasn't cruel. It was warm, like he'd been waiting all this time just to hear Kenji laugh or see him smile. But the warmth frightened Kenji. The more Haru slipped past his defenses, the more Kenji feared what would happen if Haru ever saw all of him. The quiet boy with a sketchbook full of faces he could never confess to, the boy too afraid to step into the spotlight. That fear grew heavier one rainy evening. They walked home under the navy umbrella again, shoulders close, raindrops pattering against the fabric above. Haru talked about a festival coming up, his words light and easy, but Kenji barely heard him. His heart thudded against his ribs, loud and restless. Without thinking, Kenji's fingers brushed against Haru's as they both adjusted the umbrella. The contact was brief, accidental, but it sent a jolt through him. He quickly pulled away, stuffing his hands into his pockets. Haru glanced at him but said nothing. His expression was unreadable. When they reached Kenji's apartment, Haru lingered as usual. "You should come to the festival with me," he said suddenly. "It'll be fun. Food stalls, fireworks. I'll even win you something at the game booths." Kenji froze. His throat tightened. I can't." "Why not?" "I just don't like crowds." Haru studied him for a moment. His smile wavered just slightly. "All right. No pressure." Kenji hated the disappointment he thought he saw in Haru's eyes. But more than that, he hated the way his own heart wanted to say yes, wanted to walk into the noise and chaos just to be near him. The silence between them felt heavier than the rain. That night, Kenji sat at his desk again, sketchbook open. His pencil hovered over the page, but his hand wouldn't move. He didn't know how to draw what he felt. The fear of being seen, the warmth of wanting, the ache of pushing Haru away even as every part of him wanted to stay close. He dropped the pencil with a frustrated sigh, burying his face in his hands. Kenji had lived most of his life keeping distance from others. It was easier that way. Safer. But Haru was closing that distance day by day, step by step. And Kenji didn't know how long he could resist before something inside him broke. Kenji always thought Haru's smile was unshakable. It was the kind of smile that lit up a room, the kind of smile people leaned toward without even realizing it. But one evening as they left school together, Kenji noticed something different. The clouds above were swollen and gray, heavy with another summer storm. Haru twirled the umbrella idly in his hand, but his usual chatter was absent. His steps were slower, his shoulders weighed down in a way Kenji had never seen before. "You're quiet," Kenji said softly, surprising even himself. Haru blinked, then flashed a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Just tired, I guess." Kenji didn't believe him. He wanted to press, but words tangled in his throat. So instead, he walked a little closer, close enough that when the rain began to fall, Haru could open the umbrella over both of them without thinking. They walked in silence, the downpour muting the world around them. Halfway home, Haru sighed. It wasn't a casual sigh, it was heavy, the kind that carried the weight of something unsaid. "My dad's moving out," Haru said suddenly. His voice was low, almost drowned by the rain. "Guess he finally had enough of pretending things are okay with my mom." Kenji's steps faltered. He turned his head, but Haru kept his gaze fixed ahead, eyes shadowed beneath the umbrella. I don't know, that if I just kept smiling, if I just kept being the happy one, maybe they'd." Haru laughed, but the sound was sharp and bitter. "Stupid, right?" Kenji's chest tightened. The image of Haru, the boy who hummed in the rain, who laughed too loud, who seemed untouchable, suddenly cracked, and behind it was someone fragile, someone hurting. "It's not stupid," Kenji said quietly. Haru glanced at him, startled by the firmness in his tone. Kenji swallowed, gripping the strap of his bag tighter. "Wanting things to be okay isn't stupid. Pretending you don't care, though, that's what hurts." For a moment, the only sound was rain splattering against the umbrella. Haru's eyes softened, the mask of his grin slipping away. "You're different than I thought, Kenji." Kenji looked down quickly, embarrassed. "Different how?" "Like you see more than you let on." Haru smiled faintly, but it wasn't forced this time. It was small, tired, but real. Something inside Kenji stirred, a mix of fear and warmth, like standing too close to fire. When they reached Kenji's apartment building, Haru didn't say goodbye right away. He stood there in the rain, the umbrella still open, eyes searching Kenji's face. "Thanks," Haru said finally. "For what?" "For listening. For not looking away." Kenji's throat went dry. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words tangled and died. Instead, he just nodded, his gaze dropping to the puddles at their feet. When Haru finally walked away, Kenji stayed under the awning, watching until he disappeared down the street. That night, Kenji opened his sketchbook again. This time he didn't draw Haru smiling. He drew the shadow in his eyes, the curve of his shoulders under invisible weight, the quiet honesty of that moment in the rain. And for the first time, Kenji realized he wasn't just sketching Haru's face anymore. He was sketching his heart. The rain came harder that week, as if the sky itself couldn't hold back anymore. Kenji stood at the edge of the school courtyard, watching sheets of water hammer against the pavement. He had his umbrella today, but still he hesitated. He wasn't sure why, until Haru appeared, jogging toward him, hair plastered to his forehead. "Kenji," Haru called, waving. His grin was wide, but there was a tremor in it, a flicker of something that hadn't gone away since he confessed about his family. Kenji lifted his umbrella and without a word, Haru ducked under it with him. They were too close, shoulders brushing, breaths mingling in the damp air. They walked quickly, the downpour so heavy that even the umbrella couldn't keep them completely dry. Kenji's sleeve clung to his arm, Haru's sneakers squelched against the pavement, but neither complained. At the corner of Kenji Street, the rain seemed to intensify, thunder rumbling overhead. Haru stopped suddenly, pulling Kenji with him under the shelter of an awning. For a long moment they just stood there, the storm raging around them. Haru's hand gripped the umbrella tightly, knuckles white. "Kenji," Haru said, voice almost lost in the noise of rain. "Can I ask you something?" Kenji turned, his heart already pounding. "What is it?" Haru's eyes searched his, raw and unguarded. "Do you ever feel like, no matter how much you try to smile, no matter how much you act like everything's fine, there's this emptiness? Like no one really sees you?" The words pierced Kenji's chest, because they were his own feelings reflected back at him. He swallowed, his throat tight. "All the time." Haru's hand trembled on the umbrella. He took a shaky breath, then whispered, "Then how come, when I'm with you, I don't feel so empty?" Kenji froze. The world seemed to narrow to just that single confession, echoing louder than the thunder. He wanted to look away, but Haru's gaze held him still, wet lashes, rain-damp hair clinging to his forehead, eyes shining with something fragile and desperate. "Kenji," Haru's voice cracked. Kenji's body moved before his mind could catch up. He reached out, gripping Haru's wrist, steadying the trembling hand that held the umbrella. "You don't have to say it." But Haru shook his head, rain dripping from his chin. "I want to. I have to." He leaned closer, their foreheads nearly touching, breaths warm in the cold air. "I like you, Kenji. Not just as a classmate. Not just as someone to walk home with. I like you. I've liked you for a while." Kenji's world tilted. His chest felt like it might burst. For so long, he had sketched Haru in secret, bottled his feelings into lines and shadows, convinced they would never see light. And now, Haru was handing him the truth, raw and trembling, in the middle of a storm. Kenji's voice shook. "I like you too." Haru blinked, stunned. "You what?" Kenji's cheeks burned, but he didn't look away. "I've liked you since that first walk in the rain. Probably before, if I'm honest." The umbrella slipped slightly as Haru's grip faltered, but neither cared. The rain spilled onto them, cool and soaking, but all Kenji felt was warmth when Haru leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't perfect. The angle was clumsy, their noses bumped, and the taste of rain mixed with soda on Haru's lips, but it was real. When they finally pulled back, breathless, Haru laughed softly, pressing his forehead against Kenji's. "Guess the rain wasn't so bad after all." Kenji's lips curved into the smallest of smiles, his heart lighter than it had been in years. "Not when you're here." The storm still raged around them, but inside their small circle, no umbrella, no walls, it felt like the world had finally quieted. The storm passed overnight. By morning, the city was washed clean, the streets glistening with puddles that reflected the pale blue of a sky finally free of clouds. Kenji stood at his window, sketchbook open on his desk, pencil poised above the page. This time his hand didn't hesitate. He drew Haru, not the flawless smile everyone else saw, but the Haru he had come to know, the one who hummed softly in the rain, who carried the weight of family silence on his shoulders, who looked at Kenji as if he was something worth staying for. Every line felt lighter than the last, as if with each stroke, Kenji was sketching not just Haru, but the courage he'd finally found in himself. At school, whispers followed them the moment they entered the classroom together. Haru didn't care. He dropped into the seat beside Kenji without hesitation, grinning as if the world hadn't changed overnight, though for Kenji it had. "Morning," Haru said, his voice cheerful but threaded with a softness only Kenji could hear. Kenji ducked his head, ears burning, but the corners of his lips curved despite himself. "Morning." The day unfolded like any other, teachers droning, friends laughing, the scrape of chairs against tile, but Kenji felt a constant warmth at his side, as if Haru's presence had carved out a space no one else could touch. After classes ended, they walked home together again. No rain this time, just the sound of cicadas buzzing in the late summer air. "It feels weird without the umbrella," Haru said suddenly, swinging his bag lazily over his shoulder. Kenji glanced at him. "Weird how?" "Like something's missing." Haru shot him a playful smile, then reached out and brushed his fingers against Kenji's. Kenji's breath caught. For a heartbeat, he hesitated, but then, slowly, he laced their hands together. Haru's grin softened, eyes crinkling at the edges. There it is. Better. They walked the rest of the way in silence, but it wasn't the heavy silence of fear anymore. It was easy, comfortable, like the quiet hum after a favorite song. When they reached Kenji's apartment, Haru didn't immediately leave like before. He leaned against the wall, watching Kenji with that same expression that had undone him in the rain. Open, unguarded, full of something deeper than words. Kenji shifted nervously, clutching his bag. What? Nothing. Haru's voice was low, sincere. Just, I'm glad the rain stopped. Kenji tilted his head. Why? Haru's smile widened, though not in the way it used to. This smile was gentler, steadier, like it was meant for Kenji alone. Because now I can see you more clearly. Kenji's heart stumbled, warmth rushing to his cheeks. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't. Instead, he opened his sketchbook, flipping to the page he'd finished that morning. He held it out, hand trembling slightly. This is, you. Haru blinked, then took the sketch carefully as if it were something fragile. His eyes softened as he traced the lines with his gaze. Kenji? This is... He looked up, smiling so brightly it almost hurt. Beautiful. You're amazing. Kenji lowered his gaze, embarrassed. It's just a drawing. No, Haru's voice was firm. He stepped closer, gently closing the sketchbook and pressing it back into Kenji's hands. It's more than that. It's how you see me. And his fingers brushed Kenji's, lingering. I've never wanted to be seen more than I do by you. The world around them was quiet now, the storm gone, the sky wide and endless. And for the first time, Kenji didn't feel the need to hide. He smiled, small but steady, and whispered, Then keep letting me. Haru laughed softly, pulling him into another kiss, gentler this time, unhurried, like the sunlight breaking through after days of rain. When they finally parted, Kenji glanced at the horizon. The sky was clear, a soft golden glow spilling across the rooftops. And he thought, maybe for the first time. The rain had stopped, but something far brighter had begun.